Peace and blessings, beloved. It's your sis Aisha Abdul Rahman. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to take you through all of the tools and resources that I use to do my genealogy research for my family history. I'm also going to walk you through step by step using one example person in my family, the process that I use for doing research, for documenting what I find, for digitizing, and even preserving my family history. Alright, so before I dive deep into sharing my computer screen, I want to show you what I am initially working with. So I am going to be using for today's video my maternal grandmother's obituary. Obituaries have a lot of information. It's a really great start. Some people will tell you to start with yourself when you're doing your genealogy research because you know everything that there is to know about yourself. So you put yourself, and then you put your kids, and then you put your husband, and then you go from there and there. When I started my genealogy research, it was partially already started by my uncle, and then when my grandmother passed away, I inherited literally a briefcase full of obituaries. Y'all know how Black folks are. We go to funerals for people we don't even know. We go to funerals for friends of their friends. My grandmother had obituaries for people I knew, people I didn't know, people I still don't know who they are today. So that is where I started, is I just started inputting all of the information that I had from the obituaries that I had and really putting the puzzle pieces together, because that's really how your genealogy tree will work. Is you will find yourself going down a rabbit hole. Please try and resist. It's almost impossible. You'll go from this person to this person to this person, but try and stick to the path. And that's what I'm going to be going over with you today, is kind of the process of working on one person, one little leaf on your tree at a time. Okay, so one thing I did fail to mention before I get started sharing my screen is you have to have ethical you need to take ethical consideration when working on your family history. Be respectful of people's names, dates of birth, social security numbers, and their privacy. The thing that I try and tell my living family members who really hate the work that I'm doing, and they're like, you just in everybody's business, sharing everybody's business on the internet, is I tell you this is there are ways to find out. I'm sorry, but people who want to know the information, if you want to know the tea, you can find it. So I'm going to share some ways on how I find the tea, because people swear up and down that I'm giving all their information away. The other thing is, once a person passes away, they no longer have the same rights in the government society in terms of like privacy. I don't know what the proper term for it is called, but your social security number becomes public, where you've lived, your everything becomes public record once you pass. So within 3 to 6 months, you don't even have to be on the internet. So my dad is always like, don't put my name on the internet. Don't put me on. This man's on the internet. And I've been trying to show him, like, Dad, you're already on the internet. You don't need Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You're on the internet, sir. So yeah. You are on the internet. There's things that's called public information. I can look up your name, your address, your old phone number, your old email addresses, and tell you where you've lived and all the people you've lived with, where you live, how long you lived there. It's all on the internet because it's public information. So this is where we're going to start out, is with my grandmother's public information. I'm going to get the stuff from off her obituary. And then, honey, we're going to the internet, because that's where all of your business is. Let's go.
The order of which you choose to digitize is really up to you. Sometimes I do it before, sometimes I do it in bulk, sometimes I do it after. It really just depends. Whether it's a physical document or it's a physical artifact, like maybe photos or a 3D object, you can do that first. You can do it in bulk. You can do it all at one time. So when I got my grandmother's suitcase full of obituaries, I didn't just digitize them first. I went through them. I have had them for a while. And as I've started to research and finish school in library science and archives and really learn the process, I've started to digitize things now. So I have, this is a scanner, so it's a kind of similar to a flatbed scanner. It comes with a foot pedal, so you can have your settings. Currently I have it plugged into this computer here because it's a lot faster than my Mac. So I can set the document here, and then it will automatically digitize and scan it for me. So you want to make sure that it's flat. You want to make sure that you have good lighting. So I often will use my photography equipment to guide the light, things like that. There's also a light on here, and that you can raise this up and down. So I will put a link in the description. So this is a Caesar. Some people call it a book scanner because it has the software to actually scan multiple pages at a time. It does black and white. It does color. So that is one of the tools that I use for digitizing documents, and as well as 3D objects for my family history. I also have this Kodak digital film scanner, which is sitting right here. I don't know if you can see it way over here. So this is a Kodak. It's plugged in, so I don't want to unplug it. It's hooked up to my computer. Everything is hooked up to this computer because it just makes it easier for me to work. And so I have all of this film that needs to be digitized. So I have film strips. I have also film slides, like the really small square slides. Let me grab one. So I also have these types of film slides that I inherited from my grandmother, from her photography that she's done. So this machine will allow me to digitize those items because, of course, film and pictures don't last forever. Especially if you're in a very humid area, photos will begin to deteriorate. They can stick together. I've had so many issues with photos, with trying to help my family and friends with their photos. So digitizing is the first initial step to preservation. Digital does not last forever, but it is an initial step to preservation. So these are my main two digitization tools that I use. I also have my DSLR camera. So when you maybe have seen photos on Instagram of me working, when I'm working on 3D objects like really large statues, I will take photos of that object from all sides. So I have the African statues and the artifacts or masks that I'm working on. I will take a photo on the left, the right, the front, the back, sometimes the top, and even the bottom using my DSLR camera. To be honest with you, you really can use a cell phone. I think that I tend to use my DSLR camera when I want to appear to be professional, so people take me seriously and they know what I'm doing. I don't want to show up to a site with my cell phone. But to be honest, your cell phone can do a lot. You do not need a DSLR camera. I just happen to have two because when I first started doing photography, I started out doing portrait photography for a couple of companies. I traveled and did family portraits and things like that. And I was like, oh, I don't need this job. I can do this on my own. So I quit and bought all of my own photography equipment. So I have this camera that I take with me when I'm doing museums and things like that, in libraries and professional stuff. So I digitize everything. I keep backup copies on my hard drive on my computer, as well as in a custom database that I have created. So I will jump into that and show you guys that.
All right, so to get started, usually the first thing that I do to create my family tree, or when I'm researching a person, is to start a family tree. And I started out in Ancestry because the features in terms of the hints and the things that they offer are helpful with my research. So I'm going to use my grandmother's obituary, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in her basic information. When it comes to women, you always want to use their maiden name because that's how they will show up on census records until they are married. You do not want to list women with their married name when doing genealogy family trees. So she is deceased. I'm going to put her birth date is March 11th, 1940. And using the information from the obituary, I will put Shawnee, Oklahoma. Now, the thing with your using records, am I spelling things incorrectly? Using records that you find or that you get from family. So my grandmother, I have emails. I started asking my grandmother questions before she passed away about our family history. So I have emails from her. I have family trees that she created that I have copies of. And so I've kept those. And sometimes we get information from family that we find is not confirmed in census records, or it's not confirmed in DNA records. So it is like, I like to say that doing genealogy and archival work is like CSI work. It's like private investigation, which I love crime shows and trying to figure out puzzles and problems and trying to figure out who did it. So I look at archival work very similar to that. So you get bits and pieces of information from different places, and you have to do your detective work to figure out which one is most likely to be true. So my grandmother's obituary, I believe, was written by my mother. So that's why I was spelling Oklahoma improperly. It's weird that Oklahoma is spelled okay, not oak like the word oak. So that's why I couldn't get it. Okay, and then the date of her death. Let's see. Let me look on her obituary because I do not remember. Okay, so January 14th, 2008. Wow, time goes by so fast. Okay, and at that time she was in Sacramento, California. Okay, now that my grandmother is done, I can add her mother and I can add her father. Wade Hill, deceased, male. Okay, so you have to have somebody, a parent, in order to have your family tree. So you have to have a parent and another person to get a family tree going. You have to have more than one person. Okay, so now I can go to her profile. And as you can see, I already have hints. So it's telling me that this could be her potential mother, which I know it is just because I know my great-grandmother's name. But you can go through your record hints, and what it's going to do is it's going to pull up public information. And this is why I tell people when they're really concerned about their information being on the internet. There was no internet back in 1940. However, there are records of my grandmother where she lived in 1940. What we can do now is we see her name, her birth, and her date. And what we can do is we can ask Ancestry to do some research for us. So I'm going to click search on Ancestry and see if there are any public records that we can find. So we will see that someone already has a family tree, a Saunders family tree with my grandmother's information. So we can use that. We can use census records. I like to start out with census records. I do not like to depend on other people's family trees because they can have mistakes. They can be incorrect. They can have incorrect information, especially because I don't know who this Saunders person is. I don't know how related they are, how far down the line, and how much information that they have. I feel the closer that a person is to the person, maybe it's a child, maybe it's a sibling, a grandchild, they will have more correct information. So I'm going to start out with the census records. So this is the 1940 census of my grandmother. I'm assuming, so that's the other thing, is sometimes you may, if you have a name that's common, you may find that the census record, you're not sure if that's your grandparent or not. So you have to do some research, you have to do some digging, you have to do some looking around. So it's saying that my grandmother estimated birth date 1934, age 6. So they're not sure her age. Female, Negro. She's single, living in Shawnee, Oklahoma, on the second floor on Bell Street. So it looks like this is an apartment complex, 1B. So she lived with someone with the last name of Child, Wade Hill, Evelyn Hill. So it looks like they lived with, or they had some other people living with them, or they lived with other people. So I'm going to save this to the family tree. And it's also going to give me hints about her parents, which I can save. Now, this is the reason that I was saying I start out my family tree on Ancestry, is because I do not consider my Ancestry trees to be my final trees. I use Ancestry because it helps me to find hints, and it connects to the National Archive records in terms of census data and other people's family trees. So there's public index records. I know that my grandmother lived in Gold River. I know that this is not her, Gloria Jean Hill. That's not her middle name. She's not a doctor. This seems to be another Gloria. So that's the thing, you have to be careful. I know that my grandmother lived in Fair Oaks, but this is not her name. And during this time, this is not the surname that she was going by. I know that this is my grandmother. I know that this is not my grandmother. I know this is my grandmother. So you need to know a little bit of information about people to make sure that you get the right census records. Or what you can do is you cross-reference with their parents and older census records that might show up if you are unsure. So the further and further back in the generations that you go, a lot more difficult it is, because you did not know the person personally. So it's very difficult. And you just have to really do your due diligence, do your research, really check your records. And what you can do is you can keep a Word document and keep notes to justify. This is traditional genealogy standards, is to justify why these records make sense. The other thing you can do is you can take screenshots or photos of the actual source data so that you have it. So we have this source information is coming from public records, 1950 to 1930. We have, it looks like she was registered to vote, and that is why this information is public. So we can grab a screenshot of this and create a Word document to kind of document where is this information coming from, where do we have it. So you have various ways that you can do it. You can do it in a Word document, you can do it in a database. So I do a little bit of both. I have an Airtable database that I have created where I have each family member, what type of research I've done, where I've left off, kind of like, and keep notes and keep track of what I've done. And then I upload or I attach the Word document to that.
Okay, so you might find times when you have found documents within the archives that are a bit difficult to read. The text is really old, the text is very small, and it's very difficult to read. So one of the things that I use is I have several different types of magnifying glass that I use. I will also include these in the description below. So I have this handheld magnifying glass. My battery's dead. So it has this light here, and it has a switch here to turn on the light. So with this magnifying glass, you're supposed to put it over your neck. You're supposed to put the string over your neck and let it sit here on your chest like this. I highly don't recommend this. This is like the worst thing I've ever spent money on. So I've really kept that one to show people what not to buy. I also have these Vision Aid magnifying glasses. So these, you can put them on over top of your current glasses that you're wearing, and it has different lenses that it comes with. So it comes with a case of lenses that you can change it to. It comes with a cloth that you can use to clean. So I really like this. It also has a light on it. I really like this because I can just put them on and put them on over my glasses, and as I'm looking down, I can see magnified here what I'm reading. These are my favorite. I probably use these the most. You can change the light to brighter, brighter, and then off. So these are very helpful if you have very difficult to read documents, whether that be the style of writing or the letters that are really small. And then finally, I have this one, which is sitting on a mount on the side of my desk. It has an arm that moves very much like a boom mic. It also has a light, so it has this switch here to turn the light on. You can adjust the brightness of the light. You can change it to more of a yellow tone or a white light. And then you can make it brighter or more dim as well. So that is what I use in terms of reading very difficult documents. I will print the documents first on my black and white printer at full scale, zoom it in, and then use my magnifying glass or my lenses to read them better.
I really like Genie.com because it's connected to Facebook, and a lot of my family and friends are on Facebook. So it makes your genealogy more of a social aspect where you're not doing it alone. You can invite your family to add their own family tree and connect them, add their own records, and manage their own account. So it's almost like social media for your family tree. So it will show you when the person was added, who is managing the account, all of their immediate family. The reason that I really like this, one is because, yes, I'm not doing it alone. I can add family members and invite them to participate, but I can also upload the media. So I will have copies or photos of my grandmother, her obituaries here. I can have discussions with other family members about projects. I can keep track of sources and things like that. There's also the ability to have DNA through Genie.com, or you can upload different DNA testing that you have and find people through DNA, just like on Ancestry.com. So that is pretty much my process of creating my family tree using Ancestry and then exporting it and uploading it to Genie.com. So another quick tool that I want to show you guys is JedMatch. So I really like to use JedMatch. This is my own kit. I do not have DNA testing on my grandmother. I like to use JedMatch to find other people that I can reach out to them and contact them and add them to my family tree. So JedMatch, I took my Ancestry.com raw DNA and uploaded it to JedMatch. You can filter your matches by autosomal or by X. So if I'm looking people related to my grandmother, or I'm working on my grandmother's side of the tree, I want to do the X chromosome, which is going to show people that are women or related to my grandmother through the X chromosome. So it will have all these different people, their kits, their matches, what company they tested with, how closely related to me they are. Sometimes it has their name, sometimes it's just initials if that person wants to remain private, and then their email so that you can reach out and contact them. And that's what I do, is I will contact people, email them, see if they're on Ancestry, find out if they're on Genie, and ask them if they would like to share their family tree so that I can figure out exactly how we are related. So now that I know we're related, I just share with them, hey, this is how I found you. I'm doing this type of research, and I think we could be related through, in this case, my grandmother. Do you have a family tree that you wouldn't mind sharing? So I use Airtable. I created a custom genealogy database. I will share a link in my description below. I've made a copy of it if you would like to use it. And essentially, I've created this custom database as a way to keep track of the research that I've done. So people can use worksheets. I'm actually currently working on a book. So people might want to write it by hand, or you might want to have it digital. So I do a little bit of both. I try to write things out, digitize those and have copies of the digitized, but then I also have my database. And I try and keep multiple copies in different places because nothing is forever. Accidents happen, fires, floods, servers break. There's all types of things. So I try and keep different copies and different iterations of my archival records in different places. So with my genealogy database, this is just a sample. So don't want to show you guys anyone's personal information. So this is basically a duplicate of the one that I use, and it basically kind of mimics what you would have in writing. So I have a research log, there's a family tree, there are DNA results, and there are questions that I could ask. So this is a sample person. So the name of the person that you're researching, the status of the project. Is it something that I'm working on? Is it in progress or is it done? The questions and goals and objectives that I have for this specific person, Word documents or records provided to me from this person or about this person from somewhere. Here, where the attachments are, I can have attachments like my grandmother's obituary if I want, or emails that she sent me. And usually what I'll do is I will link to Google Docs and things like that. That way I'm not bogging down uploading a bunch of things to Airtable. Contact phone number. So this is really great if you have people that are still alive and you want to still include them in your research. Their contact phone number, their location, what city or state they live in, any family facts or information that you have, and if you are allowed to share online. So I do a lot of videos, I share a lot, so I want to keep track of what family members are allowing me to share their information. Their DNA kit numbers, if I have DNA kits for them or if they have shared them with me. And then this is just a research log based on that person, and so it keeps a log of all of the records and the research that I've done for that person. And then this is where I can leave a note here about this person. So I kind of will keep track, like, hey, today I found blah, blah, blah. And it will keep track of the dates and times of your records and your comments. And so you can essentially see similar information here. So this is that same information that I found. It's just another record. So it's keeping status of, it's keeping track of the search profile. So I have the search profile and then the research log itself. So I'm taking notes and I'm doing research. You can add it, you can edit this and add. It will have a list of DNA matches, a record checklist. So did I look for arrest records, citizenship applications, DAWS roll, deeds, historical records. So this is kind of a way for me to keep track to make sure that I have checked high and low of everything possible. And then I have a repository checklist, records checklist. Did I look in the National Archives? Did I look at the Library of Congress? Did I look in the British Archives? So this is just a way for me to keep track of the different places that I've done research for this person. Did I look for them on Ancestry? Did I look for them on 23andMe? So this is my research log to keep track of the research that I have done on this specific person. So I may have a profile on the person and no research. So these basically, the way that the database is created is so they're connected. And then the family tree aspect is very similar to a Trello board. So you can look at it from an ancestral view. I have it based on finding all 16 grandparents. You can look at it from an ancestral view. You can look at it from a grid view. And that's the same thing with these, is you can change the format or the form of your database. This is just how I have it created. And then DNA results. So these questions will ask the person's name, all the information about their DNA, their ethnicity estimates, their haplogroup. So this is how I keep track of that. And all of this is connected to that initial record of the person, the testee. And then I have questions. I like to keep track of the questions that I want to ask the person or ask about the person.
Okay, so over in this corner of my office, I have several different file boxes, and this is basically how I organize all of my family docs by surname. So the boxes are like this. You can get these from an archival because they are acid free. You can get them from an archival company. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them from Uline. You can get them from several places. And so what I have in here are file folders, and then within that file folder is a tab with the surname on it, and then within that file folder is a manila folder that's also acid free that has the surname of the family member in there. And this will be one surname. So this is basically like, here, I'll show you. Hopefully nobody gets mad at me. So this has all of my mom's side. So my mom's maiden name is Dags. So this box is just all of the Dags family records. So I'll have her, she'll have her own folder, her dad will have his own folder, his dad will have his own folder, his dad or mom, whoever is the Dags in the family, whoever has that surname will be in this folder. Not their spouse, but only just them. So you have your own way that you can organize. It just depends on how you want to do it. So you have to organize in a way that makes sense. And once you have your physical copies of everything organized, you can then have organize your digital copies that you've scanned to match your finding aids, saying, hey, there's a physical copy of this. This is where it is. And you will organize those folders in the same way that they're organized physically. So you might have a physical folder that says box 1 or box 2 or box 3. And inside of box 1 is this folder, and inside of that folder is this document. So I can go more in depth in terms of the digitizing part, the organizing your files, creating finding aids, and organizing. Let me know. I'm assuming most people don't want to see that stuff. That's where I really dive deep into the archival standard procedures and systems and things like that, which is a little bit more in depth. Archivist is someone who manages and organizes unpublished documents like your family documents, family obituaries, letters, journals, things like that. And a librarian is someone who manages and organizes and makes sure that people have access to published documents like books or journals or magazines. So that's pretty much the difference. But if you guys want videos on that in terms of digitizing and organizing and managing your digital archives and family stuff, let me know. In terms of the physical things, it's a lot more, or it's a lot easier to organize. You just really create a system that works for you. And I will say you can do the same thing when it comes to digitally organizing your things or organizing your digital archives. My only suggestion is that you make sure that whatever system you're using allows you to use metadata so that you can use key search terms so that it's easier to access the information, to find it when you need it. You don't want to just store data, leave it on your computer and forget it because hard drives crash, things in the cloud go missing. You want to make sure that you're able to access things, that it's not just a one and done thing that you just leave and that's it.
I hope that this video is helpful to you guys. Leave a comment below and share some information about how you keep track of your family history and your family tree and your archives and records for your family. Life is good. Have a blessed day.